immune system is just too good, right? We talked about type 1, those are our allergies, IgG, right? Okay, allergies, IgE. Type 2, what was type 2 again? Cytotoxic, right? Type 2 cytotoxic, so we talked about our example is blood transfusions. Who's involved? IgG, IgM. Okay. Type 3, that's the immune complex. So when you're forming these complexes, they're not getting cleared out, and then they're burrowing into different areas of the body, causing massive inflammation. Okay. Who's involved? IgG. IgG's involved there. Okay. IgM, even IgG and IgM. And then the last one was type 4, right? Type 4 is the only one that has nothing to do with antibodies specifically. This one's all about the T cell, the cytotoxic T cell. So they call it the delayed type because it takes your cytotoxic T cells a minute to kick in, to become sensitized. Okay, so you see this later on. Our example with this one, we talked about like TB and like contact dermatitis, so like with poison ivy, right? So use this table to fill out lab 19. Okay, lab 19. I'll change the due date, not tomorrow. We will do it tomorrow. Okay. Examples of some autoimmune disease. So auto means self. So these are diseases where your immune cells or your immune system is attacking yourself. How dare you, right? Okay. So, 4 examples we'll talk about is Graves' disease, myasthenia gravis, rheumatoid arthritis, and systemic lupus. Okay. So number 1 and number 2 are both examples of a type 2. And then number 3 and number 4 are both examples of a type 3 hypersensitivity. Okay. Graves' disease. So what's happening in Graves' disease is you have antibodies that are recognizing your thyroid, right? Your thyroid, typically, what's its job is to produce thyroid hormone, right? And so in this situation, you're having your antibodies bind to your thyroid, and it's telling your thyroid, make more hormone, make more hormone, make more hormone, right? And so as a direct result of that, what you get is an enlarged thyroid, which looks like a goiter, right? In this picture, that's a goiter. You can get it physically removed, so they can cut it out. Only problem is it does grow back, so you will have to take some sort of immunosuppressants if they do cut that goiter out. Are you gonna die? No. I know it's Graves' disease, but no, it's not taking you to your grave. You're fine. You just need immunosuppressants, and then we'll cut out the goiter. Okay? So but the only downside to that is because you're always on immunosuppressants, then you're going to be susceptible to any other secondary infection, right? Your immune system is not very well. Okay? So you're not dying, but it's your own cells recognizing yourself when they shouldn't be recognizing themselves. Yeah. Okay. Myasthenia gravis. So in this one, you have your antibodies, and for the last one and this one, it's IgG. Okay. So IgG, what it's doing is it's binding to the receptors of acetylcholine. Okay. So remember acetylcholine receptors, if you think about like a neuromuscular junction, right? Acetylcholine, its job is to be released, right? It binds to acetylcholine receptors, triggers the action potential, the channels open, the calcium released, and then calcium goes to the actin and the myosin and blah, blah, blah muscle, right? Okay, so what's happening here is the antibodies are blocking acetylcholine receptors, okay? So if acetylcholine is not able to bind to acetylcholine receptors, are you gonna get a muscle contraction? No. Okay, so how are these people typically gonna present? They cannot form a contraction, so they're gonna see things like droopy eye. See right there? You can also have blurred vision. So why blurred vision? Or double vision? What do you have in your eyes also? Muscles. So those muscles don't work. Can't see right. Typically fatigue, okay? Muscle weakness. So both of these guys involve an antibody binding to your cells. One of them is saying produce, 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 and this one's opposite. This one's like, ooh, we're getting rid of receptors. Okay. Either way, that, right? Questions? So we're gonna remember Graves versus myasthenia gravis. Okay, rheumatoid arthritis. Rheumatoid arthritis is the worst, okay? So here you're going to have your antibodies are going to form a complex, and they're recognizing your own cells, and this can happen in different areas. These complexes typically can form like at your joints, right, like your knuckles, and when they burrow into that area, they're not getting cleared, which causes a bunch of inflammation in those particular joints. Okay. Who's responsible? IgG. Thanks, IgG. Right. We love IgG, but it's also the main culprit in a lot of these problems. Okay. So chronic inflammation, over time, crippling damage to cartilage and bones, right? Because of that chronic inflammation. We can give you medication to suppress your immune system. So you just always have to take medications. And then again, just the only downside to that is you're always going to be immune suppressed. Lupus. Okay, with lupus, okay, this can involve IgG, IgM, and even IgA. So these antibodies are being produced, and these antibodies recognize your own DNA, okay? Your antibodies are typically going to go and start attacking your kidney, okay? They recognize the kidney as foreign, and they shouldn't, okay? So that's going to lead to those complexes that are going to stay within that skin. A lot of times when you have lupus, if it gets super severe, you need like a kidney transplant. What you can do, immunosuppressants forever. And then if you have a transplant, you're still gonna need immunosuppressants because we need to make sure that that transplant doesn't get rejected. Okay. How do you get lupus? Typically, lupus is very, not popular, but it's more common in women because it's due to estrogen. So high levels of estrogen are linked with having lupus. What is the connection? I don't know, but it's the estrogen. Okay. Also, a couple other factors that can cause autoimmune diseases. So you to recognize yourself. Pollutants. So a lot of it's environmental. So a lot of times here in Bakersfield, it's very autoimmune diseases are very common, just for that reason, right? And then also, if you've had any children, right? So if you're a mother and you're developing a baby, you're making cells that are not you, right? So you have essentially foreign DNA. So it's also more common if you've had children to develop an autoimmune. So if you're a female with high estrogen and have had children and live in Bakersfield, that sounds great, right? But yeah, a lot of it's environmental, okay? So that kind of sucks. And I mean, some of it can be genetic too. But what can we do if we need to give you a transplant? There's a couple options. You can do yourself. So let's say you're a burn victim, right? And we need to add more skin to another part of your body. You can take from your own skin, right, and place it where you need it. One of my aunts did this recently. She tore her whole leg, like where her ankle is, like her whole foot was hanging on by like a tiny piece of skin. It's really gross. I have pictures somewhere. So she did an autograft to try to fix that. Okay. You can do an isograft. Is anyone a twin? Do I have any twins in here? No twins? Okay, so no one here can do an isograft. An isograft is when you use an identical twin and you use their tissue for yourself. You can also do an allograft. So this is when you're using someone else's tissue. Sometimes we use like cadavers, right? For like the ACL replacements and stuff like that. You can use like a cadaver. Or you can do like Be the Match. Have you guys heard of Be the Match? Right? You can do Be the Match and you can donate for someone. If it's not, who's most likely to be a match? Maybe a family member, right? You start with like siblings, you reach out to like cousins, extended relatives, and then there's also like Be the Match. Okay. If that doesn't work, you can also do like a xenograft. So with xenografts, this is where we use animals. Okay? So we can use things like pigs to get like a heart transplant. The good thing about using animals is that with animals, well, back up. In order for you to be a match, what we need is there's certain proteins that we need to have matched correctly. Because if you're not a correct match, it's because you have proteins on the surface that will be recognized by the immune cells and be rejected, right? Similar to blood transfusion, right? If there's a protein that doesn't match, it'll get rejected. So same thing here. So the cool thing about using something like a pig to do a heart transplant is that we can use recombinant DNA technology to make sure that these pigs don't express a specific protein that is would be recognized. Okay? So that's one of the cool ways that we can use, and so that way it doesn't get rejected. Okay? What we're looking for is there's multiple different sites. They call them HLAs. HLAs, same thing as MHC, right? I mean, we talked about MHC2 and MHC1. So HLAs is just another way to say MHC. Okay? The HLAs need to match up. Okay? There's many different HLAs, as seen up there, but the HLAs that we want to make sure that match, it's going to be the ones that express the biggest response if they don't match. Okay? The ones that we want, the ones that are doctor, right? Doctor. Those are the ones that we try to match. Those are the priority. If those match, then we can move forward. Okay. Okay. In a transplant, if they put in, right? Let's say they're giving you a liver transplant. Immediately when they connect that liver, if it's rejected, hyperacute rejection. Okay, so that's immediate. Immediately, it's like immediately no, right? Immediately no, rejected. That's hyperacute, right? If you give a transplant, and it takes a while to make antibodies, right, and get a response. So maybe even days to months, we would call that acute, right? So if you do donate, they don't tell you your recipient or anything about about your recipient until like a year later. Because then we know, okay, it for sure took, right? They didn't die, everything was fine. Okay, the only downside to xenografts is they are animals, so they could potentially have some sort of pathogen that could be bad, right? So we just have to screen for that and make sure that there's nothing harmful in that animal that could be transferred to the recipient. Okay? And again, wait like a year. You need like a year to know for sure. But even then, you're gonna for sure need to take immunosuppressants forever, right? But it's better than dying. It's better than not having a transplant, right? Some of the immunosuppressants that you can take are cyclosporine that targets your cytotoxic T cells, right? Mycophenolate targets T cells and B cells, so that's a good one. Rampune, that inhibits cell-mediated and humoral, so T cells and B cells. So those two are pretty good, right? They fight off both. Yeah. Okay, that's it for 17-18. Any questions about the hypersensitivities? Okay, about this. Okay, now we're getting to our diseases. We're gonna have some fun pictures. They're not fun pictures. I'm so sorry. We're doing skin pictures today. Yeah. Some skin. What are some features in your skin that pathogens have to get past in order to cause infection? Right? So acidic pH, what else?
I know our dad used to say, like, he kept saying that it was like something with an F.
Defensins. What else we got in there? Oils. What else? What else on your skin? Salty. Someone said salty, right? You got flora, right? You got some hair, right? That was like 6 things right there. Okay, right? See? You got dead cells, right? All our beautiful things, right? Low moisture, high acidic, right? Salt. You have lysozyme. Those antimicrobial peptides, those are your defensins. Okay, so they poke holes in bacteria and lysozyme. Okay? You have your oils, right? The oil is actually what makes your skin acidic. And you have your flora, right? That are going to outcompete any pathogens. Like, you can't live here. I'm the resident here, right? So you have residential flora, right? They're the permanent residents. Go away transient, right? Okay, that's review, right? So normal microflora, sweat and salt. We do though, who likes salt? Who?
Oh,
I like salt. No, but what bacteria on your skin like salt?
Bacteria?
What's staph?
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
Staph. Staph likes salt. Okay. So you do have some staph on your skin, and we'll learn who carries. You can carry staph either epidermidis, aureus. There's different types of staph. We'll learn who carries staph aureus though in the nears. It's not bad though. It just means you're And your skin is always shedding, right? So you have a layer of dead skin. Okay? It's always peeling off. You get new skin. Okay. If you have a rash or a lesion on your skin, okay, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a skin infection. Okay. We will talk about when you see stuff on the skin and it's a skin infection, but what could it also be? It could also be something that's in your blood, right? If it got in your blood and it can surface into the skin. So we'll talk about different examples. So just because there's a rash on the skin doesn't mean you have a skin infection. It could be a virus, and we'll talk about different viruses that cause rashes on the skin, right? Like measles, right? Chickenpox, right? That's respiratory. Measles, respiratory. So just so you know, you see it on the skin because it's everywhere else. Okay? Usually, if you see it on the skin, it's because you've been had it, right? It's been, I don't know how long. It already shows up in the skin. Oh, too late. You probably have infected a bunch of people by then, right? Because you start being contagious immediately as it starts to replicate, even before you have a rash. We're going to talk about two different types of bacteria that cause skin infections. We're going to talk about staph a lot and strep. Those are like our two big bacteria that cause issues. Okay, staph can cause folliculitis, and then we're going to talk about impetigo, which can be caused by staph or strep. Scalded skin syndrome, this is going to be staph. And then necrotizing fasciitis, that's the flesh eating, that's going to be strep. Okay, most pathogenic staphylococcus is going to be which one? Which one's the worst? Yes, aureus. Why? What's some stuff that Staph aureus has? Exotoxin, right? It has coagulase, right? So the more things that it has, it's more virulent. Okay. Okay. People can carry it as normal microbiota. Okay. So you can get it in the hospital, right? It can be spread skin to skin. We'll talk about nasal droplets and then also fomites. So you can pick it up, right, from like razors, right? Like sharing razors, sharing makeup. Sometimes it's difficult to treat due to antibiotic resistance, right? Like MRSA, bursa, depends what strain you have. And it's primarily in your nares. So we're gonna swab our nares on a blood agar plate and find out. Okay. So Staph aureus can do beta hemolysis, right? And that's what makes it pathogenic as well. Okay, so staph can cause folliculitis, so that's just an infection in your hair follicle, right? A sty is when it's in the eye. Okay. If you have a sty, are you supposed to pop that? No, warm compress. Please don't pop that. Okay. You can also develop a furuncle if you did not treat your folliculitis. Okay. So what is a furuncle? This is a more serious hair follicle infection. So this is what's going to be known as your boils, right? So you can get those boils, and they're super, super inflamed. Those you do have to drain, okay? Aseptically, but we do have to drain those, okay? But what happens if we don't treat your furuncle? You're gonna get a carbuncle, okay? So a carbuncle, super, super serious. This is when now it starts to basically peel off the neighboring tissue. And for this guy, now we have to scrape all that tissue out. So carbuncle, you're literally carving out the skin, right? We'll remember that one. Carbuncle, carve out the skin, okay? So So super, super bad, okay? So difference between folliculitis, furuncle, and carbuncle? Yeah? So folliculitis, less serious. If you don't treat it, you can develop into a furuncle, which is our boil. If you don't treat that, you can get a carbuncle. Yeah. Folliculitis,
Wouldn't that just be a general term for all three? Or
that is the less severe, but it is inflammation of the hair follicle, but that is in severity, right? Because folliculitis, that's just like a pimple, right? This is a little pimple, but when it's in the eye, it's a sty, and then more serious. Okay. Impetigo. Okay, impetigo is different than herpes because impetigo, it's dry. It's these dry, crusty lesions, usually around the mouth and extremities. If you see this, impetigo, right? If it looks crusty like that. Who can cause this? Staph aureus or strep pyogenes. Okay? Both of them can cause it. Typically, when this happens in a newborn, it's gonna be strep. Strep is usually, if it's a newborn, it's usually strep. But what are you gonna do? Take a sample, right? Culture it, find out what it is, right? Because you can use different approaches specific for staph or strep. Okay. But what does it look like? Crusty, flaky scabs, peeling of the skin, and again, the lesions are around the mouth, face, and other extremities. Okay. Super contagious. You're not gonna die though, but I'm going, right? Get treated. If it goes systemic, if it goes into the blood, then yeah, that'd be a problem, right? But typically you're not like dying. What can we use to treat impetigo? If it's staph or strep, antibiotics, is bacteria. So with folliculitis, right, for impetigo, it's antibiotics. So when I talk about these different diseases, on the final, I'll ask you what the treatment is. When I talk about treatment, I'm looking for about 3 options. Antibiotics, antitoxin, antiviral. Or you can see, and some of them are gonna need vaccination. So those are like the general terms I'm looking for. So staph strep is gonna be antibiotic, right? So impetigo, antibiotic. How can you get it? As easily as a fly picking up impetigo from one person in the hospital and landing on another person in the hospital, right? Because bacteria is microscopic. Remember, it's tiny. So a fly dipping its tiny feet, right? Think about our little dishes, our petri dish. If a fly lands on that petri dish and then lands on you, boom, you got it, right? All it takes is that many. When you use your little loop, sometimes you even see what you're picking up. No, but it's there. It's there, you grow it, okay? You can get it through touch. So if I touch your boil, am I gonna get it? Yeah. If I touch the crusty lesions, am I gonna get it? Yes. And from certain surfaces too. So if you drop strep or staph on our tables in lab and you don't clean up your table and someone else shows up and starts touching the table, can they get it? Yeah, that's why we use bleach and we're safe. Okay, so how does staph aureus cause impetigo? So it's the same but it's different. So staph aureus can cause this folliculitis. There's a strain of staph aureus that is able to produce exfoliative toxin A and toxin B. So if your strain of staph aureus can produce these 2 toxins, then it can cause impetigo, right? Exfoliate, what does that sound like? Do you guys exfoliate when you take a shower, right? What are you doing when you exfoliate? right? You're scrubbing off those dead skin cells. So exfoliative toxin A and toxin B cause the sloughing off of the skin cells, right? That's what leads to that blistering, okay? A couple other things that Staph aureus has, it has hyaluronidase. Do you guys remember what hyaluronidase does? Yep,
It's
and where's hyaluronic acid at?
everywhere in our body.
Everywhere, right? Your connective tissue, right? Everywhere. Kinase. What does kinase do again? Cuts the clots. And then penicillinase. So it's a drug that's resistant to penicillin. Great. So it can be antibiotic resistant. How can you diagnose impetigo? Just looking at it, right? If you see that, impetigo, boom. Okay. Then you just have to know for staph and strep. Can you tell by eye, or what do you gotta do? Culture it, right? If you're in the hospital and you need to know, culture it. Take a sample, and you'll find out if it's staph or if it's strep. And then what are we gonna give? Topical antibiotics. Antibiotics. You don't have to know that it's Vasobacterium. I'll say antibiotic. Okay. In newborns, it's mainly going to be strep. Okay, it's going to be strep that causes this. Okay, that makes me sad. Moving on. Staphylococcal scalded skin syndrome, okay? We rarely see this. It's not common to see. But just in case you do see it, no, it's not, don't call UPS, right? It looks like this child has been burned. And typically you see this in infants 0 to 2. No, I'm dead serious, right? If you see a 0 to 2-year-old coming in and their whole skin is burned, you're gonna be like CPS immediately, right? Oh, I said UPS. I'm like, what's so funny? UPS, CPS, okay. CPS immediately, right? But what it could be is it could be staph. And it's the same staph that has exfoliative toxin A and toxin B. But what's happening is that it gets into the blood. So it's systemic, okay? So it causes the whole outer layer of skin to shed off. Okay? But we can treat it, antibiotics. Has anyone ever seen this? Okay, me neither. But it can happen. Okay, so more nasty pictures, but basically again, this toxin goes systemic, sloughs off all of the skin, okay? Because now your skin is shedding, now you're susceptible to other infections, right? You broke down that barrier, you can get sick from something else. So it's important to get treatment soon. Okay. Strep. Again, strep pyogenes is the worst one. Okay. Pyogenes is the worst one because it can do beta hemolysis. Okay. So when you think of hemolysis, there's 3 options. You're either beta, alpha, or gamma. Okay. Alpha hemolysis means partial digestion of red blood cells. Okay. Partial red blood digestion kind of looks like mucusy, right? So right there, that alpha sign, when you look at your plates, it kind of looks like mucus and it looks a little green when you look at your plates. Okay. Gamma, which is right there on the bottom, nothing. Okay. Gamma means no hemolysis. So when you look at your plate, it's just your bacteria growing, and no lysis of the red blood cells, so you don't see a clear zone or a green zone. It just looks like bacteria growing, right? And the red is intact because the red is the red blood cells. If you can do beta hemolysis though, beta hemolysis, right? That one you are completely lysing the red blood cells. So when you look at your plate, it's going to be a complete clear zone where your bacteria is growing, okay? And so we'll take a look at that. Which one is gonna be the most pathogenic? The one that can do beta, okay? Who can do beta? Staph aureus can do beta, and Strep pyogenes can do beta, okay? So those are the most pathogenic. Okay, what else does strep have, Strep pyogenes have, that's unique to Strep pyogenes? That makes it pathogenic. Hmm? Yes, M protein. It has M protein, right? What is M protein for? What does it help the bacteria do? Evade the immune system, right? How? Because it can avoid phagocytosis, right? And it also helps with detachment, okay? So it helps with colonizing, okay? So can we think of 3 reasons why Strep pyogenes is pathogenic? We said beta hemolysis, M protein, and what else does it have? It has a capsule, and you can say hyaluronidase if you want, right? So whichever 3 you remember, think of 3. Its capsule is made of hyaluronic acid. We have hyaluronic acid. So does that help us? No, because we don't recognize that, right? So that's not gonna cause an immune response. Tragic, right? It also has streptokinase, right? It can cut the clot. So think of 3 that you like to memorize for final. Okay, so here's your flesh eating, right? Group A, Streptococcus, aka Strep pyogenes. Okay, Strep pyogenes is group A, Streptococcus. Okay. Certain strains, what this guy does is Strep pyogenes is going to get into the bloodstream, and it's going to coat itself with plasminogen, okay? It coats itself with plasminogen, and when it does that, it becomes activated. So your blood is going to activate this guy. Great, turn on, and as soon as it gets activated, it's going to start to just lyse all your cells and your tissues. You're literally growing inches and hours. It's terrible. It's super, super painful too. So if somebody comes in and they have like a paper cut and they're describing the pain to be so excruciating, it might be the flesh eating, because the wound doesn't look very dramatic, but the pain is dramatic. But it can quickly, in hours, grow inches, okay? So if you come back within 24 hours, super, oh, let me show you the picture. Oh, not the picture yet. Oh, I took out the picture? No, wait. There's my picture. Okay, there's my picture, right? So super quickly, you can go from inches, you can grow inches. When we treat this though, what are we gonna use to treat if it's Strep pyogenes?
Don't you have to cut it out?
We do have to cut it out. And what else do we need to do? Antibiotics. So antibiotics to kill Strep pyogenes, and we have to cut ahead of it, okay? So you're gonna have to cut where it has not progressed yet, okay? And what we can do too is we're gonna have to do like an MRI and a CT scan to make sure and see how far the strep has traveled to make sure that we cut it out. That's what that's saying, okay? So,
I saw one of them. I tried writing paper on one, but we you're sharing needles with someone, you got it.
Mm.
And it was like fluffy, and you can feel like how tough it is. So like when you touch them, the skin felt like Rice Krispies. And then we took an X-ray, you could see like air from all the oxygen like the bacteria were producing when he lost his arm. They had to cut off his whole arm.
I mean, he got lucky that he caught it at the arm.
Yeah.
It could get worse, but still, that's doesn't always happen, but it can happen, right? Sometimes. There was an accident a while back with someone who went ziplining, and when they went ziplining, they fell and they got a cut, and they fell into like the dirty water. And so when she had that cut, it introduced the bacteria into her skin, and she got flesh eating that way too. So we're not sharing makeup and razors. Needles, definitely. Good reminder. Just throw that out there one more time. Stay safe, right? Okay. Questions about the two different bacteria we talked about?
Did
Right,
she
step by
survive?
step.
The zip line, did she survive?
She did survive. She's fine. She got treatment.
She has all her limbs?
I don't remember if she kept her whole leg or not. I think she did. I think they just cut out the piece because she went immediately to the hospital, right? Because if you have something and you immediately go and get it treated, they should just be able to carve out that piece. But if you wait a long time,
But how would they know that it's like?
because like I said, it depends on the symptoms, right? The severity of her pain. They probably cultured that as well, right? If you culture it, you know you have it. So you just need a sample. That's it.
She's just like the doctors.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she kept her leg. She survived. She's fine, but you do have to get treatment fast. Okay. But did you die? No, right? Some of these smallpox, yeah, that one's fatal, right? So we talked about staph, we talked about strep, and we talked about the different types we talked about 4 different diseases, right? Little folliculitis, different types of folliculitis, and then impetigo, scalded skin syndrome, and then necrotizing fasciitis, right? Staph could cause 3 of them, and then strep was 2 of them, right? So just start to categorize, start to chunk up the leaders. Right? Okay. Chickenpox and smallpox. Okay. We're gonna talk about different types of things that you see on your skin. Okay. You can have something that is mastular. Okay. Mastular just means red spot, right? Just a red spot on your skin. You can have something that is pastular, which means it's a red bump. You can have something that is a vesicle, so vesicular, and that means it's filled with fluid, which is chickenpox. And then you can have pustular, which is bump filled with pus, right? So those are kind of your 4 options. So when we talk about the different viruses, we'll talk about them as, are they making mastular, papular, vesicular, or are they making a pustular, okay? Chickenpox, that's gonna be vesicular, right? So that's gonna be a red bump that's filled with fluid, okay? That fluid is contagious, okay? Smallpox is pustular, okay? So it's this ball filled with pus. They are both respiratory though, okay? They're both respiratory. You get it through droplets, okay? But the vesicle's also contagious, and the pustules on the smallpox, those are also contagious too. So you can get it through droplet and through direct touch, okay? When I talk about chickenpox is a disease. The etiologic agent, varicella, right? It's varicella virus. Smallpox is the disease. The actual pathogen is variola. Okay, so varicella and variola. Okay, varicella, just nice to say. Okay, varicella, aka human herpes virus 3. I'm gonna say varicella. Okay, varicella virus. When you get varicella, right? Most of you got vaccinated, right? If you were born after 1995, you've been vaccinated, right? Is everybody vaccinated? For
No.
chickenpox?
No.
No? Okay.
Yes.
Have you had chickenpox?
I'm older than her, so I had to.
You had it? Okay, perfect. Beautiful. You had it. That's all that matters. Hmm? You had chickenpox? Okay. Has anyone not had the vaccine and never had chickenpox?
Oh my God.
Elvira, we need to be careful with her. If anyone
Yeah.
gets shingles, we gotta isolate her. Because, so here's the thing. If you've never had chickenpox and you get chickenpox as an adult, then it's serious.
Just go get vaccinated.
Yeah, I
Because-
remember I already had my appointment and everything when my mom's house all got infected. So I did it because I was already living somewhere.
Okay. It gets dangerous as an adult because what's happening is those vesicles that we see on the skin, in an adult, those vesicles can form on the alveoli. So pneumonia. So you could be fatal from pneumonia in that case. Okay. Chickenpox, how did you get it? Inhale, goes to lymph, from lymph to blood, blood to skin. So by the time you sit on your skin, it's already been touched everywhere, right? What does it look like? These red vesicles on the skin. If you scratch them, they spread, right? You can get from person to person. It's a DNA virus. DNA virus means that it's going to get incorporated into your DNA, and we have it forever, right? Forever. Okay. Why is it so pathogenic? Because it replicates in the blood. Okay. When it's in the blood, it can go everywhere. When you had chickenpox, you'll keep it forever and it stays in one of your dorsal ganglia. It's either the left side or the right side. So if it ever becomes reactivated as shingles, it kind of looks like an arm being wrapped around your body, either on one side or the other side. Okay. Incubation is about 10 to 20 days. First symptoms, fever and rash. Your rash starts to develop within 3 to 7 days. Your vesicles crust and they fall off. But the good thing about chickenpox is that once they crust, they're no longer contagious. Smallpox, those guys are still contagious after they crust off. But not chickenpox, Okay. Could you have been spreading chickenpox before you even saw the rash? Yeah. That's the important part. Okay. How are we going to, okay, so your options are you either hopefully got exposed as a child, because as a child it's not as serious. It can reactivate at any time because it is a latent virus, right? And when it reactivates, it's shingles or varicella zoster, okay? Varicella zoster is when it reactivates. Super, super painful. What we can do to try to prevent that, because with older age, they can reactivate, so we can give you like booster shots. If you've already had chickenpox and you go around someone who has had chickenpox or someone who's having chickenpox, that also naturally boosts your immunity. So like if you work in the medical field and you've already had it, go visit the patient that has chickenpox, that's a natural booster right there. You could do that because you shouldn't get sick from it anymore. But if you've never had chickenpox, don't go around the chickenpox person. If someone gets shingles, right? Let's say you're super stressed out and you get shingles the day of the final exam. We're not gonna sit you next to Elvira because if you have shingles, you can give chickenpox to somebody. Because we call it chickenpox when it's the first time. So you don't give shingles to shingles, but a shingles person can give someone chickenpox. Stress can also cause the shingles to come back up. How to avoid stress? I don't know. Go to seminars, right? I'm joining those too. Okay, how to reduce stress. Why it becomes so dangerous in adults? Again, so what happens is you have those vesicles form on the alveoli in the lungs, which can cause pneumonia. So fluid in the lungs. So that's when it can potentially be fatal. When we give this vaccine, do you guys remember what type of vaccine it is? Yep. Yes. So we're giving an attenuated. So it's weakened virus, but it is a live virus. So there is a potential for it to mutate and become virulent chickenpox. That typically doesn't happen though. Did anyone in here who got the vaccine get sick? No, I didn't either. Yeah, I'm good. Right? It usually doesn't happen. Complications. So we already said, right? If a child has a fever and it's a virus, are we giving aspirin? No, because it can cause rays, right? Rays. With rays, starts as mild. Okay, this can cause neuronal changes, right? They can go into a coma. They can die. Yeah, seizures. No. During pregnancy, if you got shingles, are we gonna sit next to pregnant people?
No.
No, okay, holidays are coming up. If you have shingles, don't assume everybody has been vaccinated or has had chickenpox, okay? It's happened before, not in my class, in another class. They had like a study group and everybody was stressed out and one of the students hadn't had chickenpox and didn't have the vaccine, and somebody that was leading the study has shingles because they were stressed out, and they gave the other student chickenpox. So if you got shingles, maybe just isolate a little bit, right? Just isolate a little bit. Don't get other people sick. We care if you are pregnant and you get chickenpox. Typically, anything during first trimester is the most dangerous. So if you get chickenpox when you're pregnant, that can cause deformalities with your fetus. So you don't want to get chickenpox when you're pregnant, right? And there's just a picture, right? It stores in the dorsal root ganglia, reactivates. When it reactivates, it looks like that. Super, super, super painful. They give you like narcotics to deal with this because it hurts. I don't know because I haven't had it, but I heard it hurts super bad, and they have to give you like really strong narcotics, which I'm scared to take narcotics.
You're moving away from narcs and now you're doing more like gabapentin stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's a peripheral neuropathy. So they're moving towards more like stuff that blocks nerve pain. So they're also doing like spinal cord stimulators for people that have like chronic cardiomyopathy from shingles.
And if you're getting shingles all the time, is that normal?
No.
No, okay. So if you're getting recurrent shingles, that means that's a red flag that there's either something wrong with your immune system, so you got some sort of autoimmune going on, or cancer too. So if you're getting recurrent shingles, that's not normal, we gotta go check that out, okay? Oh yes, reasons why varicella would get reactivated. So with elder age, you wanna go ahead and get boosters to bring up our antibodies, okay? You can do something called a titer. So a lot of times when you're working in the medical field, when they look at a titer, they're just looking at the concentration of antibodies that you have for certain pathogens. So if they look at your titer for chickenpox and it's at a certain count, then you're like, oh, okay, you don't need your booster yet. But as soon as your antibodies go down, okay, we need that booster redone. Okay. How do we treat chickenpox? It's a virus, so we give antivirals. Okay. We give antivirals, so acyclovir. Acyclovir we use for all different herpes family. Right? Anything in the herpes family is going to be acyclovir. That's all we got, right? If you have, give the boosters. Our vaccine, right? The vaccine that we have actually comes from one patient. It's called the Oka strain. So that's a little boy called Oka, and that's where they isolated chickenpox from. So everybody gets his chickenpox virus in the vaccine, which is kind of cool, right? Like,
Yeah.
everybody has like Oka's vaccine. If I was Oka, I wouldn't give a shit about that. Like, I'm so cool. Like, where's my Nobel Prize?
Mhm.
Like, I'm giving single-handedly holding it down for everybody, right? So that was chickenpox, right? Varicella. Did we close about varicella? You're doing varicella? Oh, you're gonna get that down for the final. And then your project will be a review for everybody, right? Right? No.
No pressure, no pressure.
No. Okay. Next is variola. Okay, variola, this is smallpox. So this is gonna be a pustular rash. So on the left-hand side, that's varicella. On the right side, we have variola, right? Do you see the difference between the rashes? So if I'm like this picture, that picture, you're like, ooh, that's variola, right? That's smallpox. Okay, smallpox, it's actually a type of poxvirus, right? Okay. So with smallpox, this killed millions of people. Millions of people. It was the Spanish that brought it over, right? They brought it over on purpose. So the crusts, right? We said when that pus dries up and becomes a crust, it is still contagious. So blankets were filled with these crusts, and when they gave the blankets to the Native Americans, they knew it had that crust on there. That was on purpose. That was not on purpose. You can't tell me that, okay? So, killed millions of people, right, through that crust. Okay. It is a DNA virus. When you get smallpox though, does it go latent? You die. You don't even get a chance. It's not gonna go dormant, you die. Right? You die. Okay. Do we really see smallpox here? We have eradicated it through vaccination, but we do have the vaccine for it. Just in case someone starts like viral warfare, we do have vaccines ready to go. Certain people do get vaccinated, and it's only higher government officials. And if you are military that goes overseas, get the vaccine for it. Okay. Anyone military overseas? Like Navy? No? Nobody in here? Maybe, I don't know. You bet. Okay, so you guys probably didn't get this vaccine. So I'd be screwed, right? If someone starts like biological warfare, because everyone's gonna fight for that vaccine. Like, am I gonna get it first? Probably not. But anyways, how did you get it, right? How do you get variola? Two options, right? You either touch the crust, or sneeze, droplet, right? So you inhale. When you inhale, it goes to lymph. From lymph, it goes to blood. From blood, it goes to dermis, right? That's why this guy leaves you scars on your skin. So when they literally look at the mummies are full of scars because you're hitting dermal layer. And right, we said when you hit dermis, can that skin recover? No. Okay. Chickenpox, that was only epidermis. So your skin recovers. This guy's dermis doesn't recover. Okay. Incubation, 12 days. Infection begins with just a fever and malaise. The rash comes a few days later. Develops from macular to papular, vesicular to pustular. Right? So red dot to red bump to red vesicle to red filled with pus, right? Death, 10 to 16 days after symptoms first appear. So that's fast, right? Okay. Again, how'd you get it? Droplet, right? Or those contagious scabs. The scabs from the mummies, still contagious. That's crazy. That was it right with me. Okay. How are we gonna treat smallpox? We got nothing. Nothing. We got nothing for this. Yes. Okay, I gotta join the Navy so I get this vaccine. I'll do it. No, I gotta join the Navy and then I'll get the vaccine. Okay, that's all we can do. All we can do is give vaccine.
That's true, because like Coast Guard or the National Guard, they won't give it to you.
Yeah. No. Yeah, or a higher government official.
So you have to be Army?
So be vice president or secretary of state, you'll get the vaccine. Because they travel to different areas of the world, which may have it. Because we don't have it.
So Army gets it, Navy gets it.
If you go overseas, yeah, Marine will get
Marines.
it. Anyone who goes overseas will get it.
If
So
you
they're not
have
bringing it
tattoos,
back.
you can't be a Marine.
Hmm?
If you have tattoos, they won't take you.
Really?
The Army will. So you're gonna have to do the Army. I don't know about the Navy. If you have tattoos, you might not be able to join the Navy.
It's fine. Something else will get me. I think it's fine. But that way they're not bringing it back. Okay, it's fine. It's a toxo. Oh my gosh, I talked about toxo to a doctor and he looked at me crazy. And I was like, you know what, it's fine. Whatever. It's been a minute since you took micro, so it's fine. But he was like, it's rare. I was like, it's not rare. And I was like, whatever. Why am I arguing? That's fine. He's like, I haven't seen anyone. I'm like, that doesn't mean that you don't know that they have it. Like, that's the whole point. You don't know you have it. They're not gonna come in and say, I think I have toxin. There's nothing wrong with you. But it's there. I was like, whatever. I'm not gonna argue. I was like, right? I was like, just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. It's fine. It's fine. But he looking at me crazy, and I was like, I'm not crazy. It's fine. But yeah, we don't have anything. So we're gonna go vaccination, but we don't get it because we don't need it. And yeah, and this vaccine hurts a lot. I have a picture. Okay, not this one, but this is the last case of smallpox that we saw, and this was in 1977. Okay, 1977. This was the last case of smallpox. Okay. stopped giving the vaccine 1972. I think that date for last natural causes, I think it's not 77, I think it's 67. And then we stopped vaccinating in 72.
Was that in the US or, cause that one was Somalia.
Oh, I was gonna say, maybe that's wrong. Last, I guess, see, last natural case in Somalia, but in the US, we stopped vaccinating in 72. I won't ask you dates. Okay. Look at this vaccine though. That thing hurts. Look at that.
Oh gosh.
Ugh. It's pretty nasty. It hurts, and they have to do like repeated stabs. I don't know why. I did not develop this, but it's try convincing people to take that vaccine.
Have you seen the Mexico one?
Yes, the TB. That one's TB. That was not even that bad. And that's TB. Who's gonna line up to do that?
Can't even get them to get the regular
I
vaccine.
know. That's why no one's gonna put money into developing this because nobody's gonna get that one. But if you're going overseas, they're not even gonna tell you. They're just gonna give it to you. They're not gonna ask you. Like, line up. Next, right? Your body is not your body. You belong to the military.
Mm-hmm.
And shoot you up. Okay, questions about, oh, what time is it? Okay, I was like, oh crap, what time is it? Questions about varicella, variola, chickenpox, smallpox. Yup. Yes. And chickenpox, we can give you some treatment, and the vaccine is accessible to everybody.
And it's available to ourselves on.
And it can reactivate, yes. Smallpox, you just die, right? Yes, chickenpox will not be contagious when that vesicle turns to a crust. Smallpox, always.
Wait for everyone?
The mummies have it. The mummies that they dig up, their crusts are still contagious. To excavate, for discovery, curiosity, right? Good. So we have it, and we got the vaccine, but just special people get it.
They reawakened the mummy, but it was the bacteria that was like reawakened. That's the first one.
We'll talk about the next two viruses on Wednesday. Yeah, I'll change the date for lab 20. It won't be due tomorrow. I want at least 5 to 6 days. Double space. And that includes your tables and your.
I didn't reply yet.
Yeah, it's not that.
I promised to get out of the declaration.
That's fine.
This is not next, is this Thanksgiving? No, next week is Thanksgiving.
So we do have the PowerPoint.
In your, is there, submit there, so you can submit the PowerPoint?
Okay.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, so the rubric, literally the rubric, like 6 different pieces, each one of those things is like an area.